Welcome to Formation, a weekly podcast from University Christian Church in Fort Worth, Texas. During the season of Advent, we're doing some mini episodes to prepare ourselves for the upcoming Sunday in worship. Join us. Welcome to Formation, a weekly podcast from University Christian Church in Fort Worth, Texas, where I sit down every week and talk about faith. Happy to have back again this week for the special Advent episodes of Formation, Reverend Kera Watts. So, Kera, as we talked about last time, during this season of Advent, we're doing these sort of mini MINI episodes of Formation just to kind of get us ready for the upcoming Sunday. And this coming Sunday, I will be preaching in the 8:45 and 10:10 services, and then at our 11:15 service, our choir and orchestra are presenting a Magnificat. And so it should be a good Sunday. Since I'm not in charge of the choir or know anything about the Magnificat that is being done, I thought maybe we could talk about that scripture I'm going to preach on.
Let's do that.
I would probably know more about that than I would about the other, but I'm really looking forward to the musical presentation. It'll be beautiful. The theme that Russ has chosen, our senior minister, for this week is titled, "You Can't Go Alone." And the scripture that he selected for me to preach on this week is the first chapter of Ruth, the story of Ruth and Naomi. Why do you think that is a relevant Advent story?
I think because it is truly a story of being in relationship, being with others, not being alone. And I think as we're moving towards Advent, to the Christ child coming, it is not a singular event for us. It's not something that we just do by ourselves. It is something that together we are preparing for Jesus to come. And so I think that the story of Ruth is a remarkable one to tell what it really looks like to support each other as we travel. Because literally that's what's happening in some ways. Yeah.
And to remind our listeners who may not know that story, we've got a woman named Naomi who was married, had 2 sons. They were married. Tragedy happens, and it ends up just Naomi, Ruth, and the other daughter-in-law, Orpah. So Naomi's going back to her. She's leaving where they are. She's going back to the land of her people, and tells the young women, "Go live your life.
Right. Don't worry about me.
Don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine. You go get remarried. Do whatever you need to do." And Orpah says, "Okay."
Yeah.
Ruth says, "No.
Yeah. I'm not leaving you.
I'm not leaving you.
You are part of who my family is now."
And there's that famous scripture from that chapter, "Whither thou goest," in the King James Version, "Whither thou goest, I will go," which strangely is in weddings.
Right. Yes.
But,
yes.
For a while, there's part of me that didn't like this story in that Naomi said what she needed. And Ruth, I don't know, I used to sort of look at it as Ruth sort of bulldozing her way into what she thought Naomi needed. What do you think about that? I will say that I've changed my tune on that, and I'll tell you why. But I'm just wondering if you've thought that too.
I don't know. I hadn't really thought it. I think that it serves this unique place in the Bible, potentially because Ruth saw that more was needed. That, and I think that for me, through that whole story, it's recognizing that Ruth's paying attention and showing up in ways for her friend that we are called to do in relationship with others. And so I've never really thought about it as her saying, I'm not going to listen to you. Instead, I'm going to do what I think you need. But I think that relationship was such that it was fair for Ruth to say, no, this is where I'm going to be,
But
right beside you.
I also think it's fair for Orpah
Right.
to have made the choice that she made. I know
Absolutely.
sometimes there's been a little people looking down on her for
Yeah.
not doing what Ruth did.
Right.
But I think her choice was just as valid.
Right. And we don't know as much about that relationship either.
Right.
And so I think it makes sense that in that space and in that time that it was the best choice for her to go back and to kind of start over where her family was.
Yeah.
But with Ruth and Naomi, there was a new family to be created. And however that was known, I trust that there was a knowing of some sort that called.
And what made me change my mind about that text is if you sort of lay the God story, the larger picture of God, over top of that story or underneath. I'm not sure which one it would be. I'm picturing those. Remember the old plastic?
One at a time.
Yeah, one of the the ads and ads.
Right.
Excuse me. But that God, much like Naomi, much like Ruth, loves us.
Right.
And we may be in a place where we say, I don't want that.
Right.
I don't need that.
I'm not
God's-
there right now.
But God's going to love us anyway.
Right. And show up.
And relentlessly and be there and seek us out. And there's a real comfort in that to me. And also, I think it's nice for us to have sort of a female character
Right.
that represents that God role.
Right.
In
And that the book of Ruth even exists in the Bible. Like, that's what I find so interesting. I can't remember the stats, but I know that God is not mentioned frequently in the book of Ruth. It really is a story of
women.
of women and what happens and the decisions they make and all that and the blessings that come from their continued relationship together. And it's not all wonderful. There's a lot of
Right.
there's such hard stuff in the midst of it.
And even though there is a sort of, Prince Charming comes and they lived happily ever after sort of thing at the end,
Right.
all of that came about because of the choices the women made.
Right.
They were very in control of that situation.
Right.
I just love it. And then one of the other, you were talking about, women being highlighted in the Bible, Esther.
Right.
God's not mentioned at all in Esther, I don't think.
Right.
So it is pretty remarkable for when the Bible, was written and as it was compiled and canonized and all that these stories of women
They made it.
into
The
Bible.
Right. And so what are we to garner from that because
Or
of their
glean.
existence?
Glean is a word I learned from the book of Ruth when I was in elementary school.
you
Remember they
serious?
would glean the fields?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because after the harvest, it was against
had to go pick up
it was
the-
against the law to pick up the extras. That was for the poor people, and it was called gleaning. As a matter of fact, I used that in New York Times crossword puzzle only on Tuesday. That's about as far through the week I
I
can
feel
get.
like it was recently in spelling bee, but that's
It was. It was. So
we digress.
we digress. Well, and I love the title of that. You cannot go alone.
Right.
I think we were designed for relationship, not necessarily romantic relationships, but to be in relationship with other people the way God desires to be in
Right.
relationship with us. And what a beautiful
Right.
example of that
And,
is this
and we're
story.
making room for the Christ child who will teach us how to be in relationship with each other. I mean, and so that's why I think it's a really nice way to get us a little further down the road
Right.
of preparing ourselves for Christmas.
And knowing that even when we get to Christmas, that's not the end. You know, the
Right.
theme of Advent this year is called Begin Again.
Right.
And we do.
Right. It's
Al-
constant.
Yeah. We're always given the grace and the opportunity to have fresh start, a new day, a new season,
Yeah.
a new celebration of the birth of Christ, a new celebration of the resurrection of Christ. I mean, our whole faith existence is
That's how I see it. Yeah,
patterned
God
on
makes all things
beginning
new.
again. Yeah.
God makes all things new over
Yeah.
and over and over. And we just get to live into that.
Yeah.
And whatever that ends up looking like. So,
Yeah.
begin
Well,
again.
thanks for coming
Sure.
back to chat about Advent.
Sure.
It's probably my favorite season. And thank you for joining us. Hope that you are enjoying and using this time of Advent to prepare and to really settle into the idea of what Christ can do in the world as we begin again. We'll see you next time. This Sunday, December 8th, is the second Sunday of Advent and the second week of our Advent theme, Begin Again at University Christian Church. At our 8:45 and our 10:10 casual service, I'll be preaching a sermon from the book of Ruth and from Ecclesiastes titled We Can't Go Alone. It's about how we need each other on this journey of life. At 11:15, our chancel choir, under the direction of Dr. Todd Prickett, will present Magnificat by Taylor Scott Davis. This is a beautiful setting of the biblical story of Mary singing her joy at being told she would be the mother of Jesus. This will be a Sunday you won't want to miss. We hope that you will join us for worship this week at UCC. Our service times are 8:45, simple worship at 9:30. Our 10:10 casual service and our 11:15 traditional services are both live streamed, so you can join us in person or online. We hope that you will join us as we begin again.